quiet suburban home in Florida, a devoted father, a loving mother, 3 innocent children, and a dog. But behind the pastel-colored walls and perfectly trimmed hedges, a disturbing secret waited to be uncovered. When federal agents arrived to serve a simple arrest warrant, what they walked into was something they would always remember. 4 lifeless bodies, a deteriorating dog, and a man who claimed to have tried, yet somehow failed, to join them in death. What happened inside the Todt family home? Was this a family pact, or something far more sinister? Celebration, Florida. The name alone evokes images of community barbecues, well-manicured lawns, and neighbors waving from their porches. Developed by Disney itself, it was supposed to be the happiest town in America. But on January 13, 2020, that illusion was broken. Federal agents had been tracking Anthony "Tony" Todt for months, suspecting him of a Medicaid fraud scheme connected to his physical therapy practice in Connecticut. When they finally located him at his family's Florida home, they expected a simple arrest. Instead, they found Tony, pale and unsteady, emerging from his house like a man who hadn't seen sunlight or sanity in weeks. Something was off. He looked sick, disoriented. When officers entered the home, a strong odor hit them, one that any seasoned cop instantly recognized. The smell of decay. At the top of the stairs, they found Tony again, mumbling that his wife was just sleeping. When asked where the children were, he stammered something about sleepovers and being fuzzy on the details. Officers moved upstairs, still calling out, still hoping this was all just a misunderstanding. It wasn't. Inside the master bedroom, beneath bundled sheets and comforters, they discovered the bodies. Tony's wife Megan, sons Alec and Tyler, and even the family dog Breezy, each lifeless, each in an advanced state of decay. But one was missing, 4-year-old Zoe. A frantic search through closets, bathtubs, even the refrigerator yielded nothing. Then they looked again at the bed. Tucked at Megan's feet, hidden beneath a final layer of blankets, was Zoe's small body. The entire family was gone, except for Tony. He was arrested immediately, mumbling that he'd taken a large dose of Benadryl in an attempt to die alongside them. But the question loomed. Had this been a suicide pact, or a premeditated act? While recovering in the hospital, Tony confessed. According to him, he and Megan had been on a spiritual journey, obsessed with the afterlife and end times prophecies. They believed the world was ending, and that the only way to remain together in eternity was to die together. Tony claimed that on a December night, while the children slept, he fatally injured Alec and Tyler, and then ended their lives. He said he did the same to Zoe, then to Breezy the dog. The next day, he said, Megan inflicted self-harm but did not die, so he ended her life as well. Then, he waited 36 hours for the bodies to settle, arranged the remains in the master bedroom, and prepared to end his own life. Except, he didn't. Tony failed to take his own life, despite trying, he claimed, using multiple methods. He took Benadryl. He bought pellet guns because he wasn't a fan of real guns. He even drove across the state to Sarasota for reasons he couldn't explain, lost his phone at a Starbucks, and returned to the condo to retrieve a Mickey Mouse necklace for Zoe, her special item for the end. Let that sink in. A man claiming to be overwhelmed by suicidal grief, wandering around Starbucks and shopping for symbolic jewelry for his lost daughter, all while living among the deteriorating remains of his entire family. Then investigators found the letter. Typed and printed, it appeared to be a joint suicide note. It spoke of escaping end-of-world hardships, of spiritual salvation, and a desire to remain together forever. It mentioned past traumas, miscarriages, chronic illness, and the suicide of Megan's father as emotional catalysts. The letter claimed the children were involved in the decision. It sounded like the manifesto of a cult, but there was one glaring problem. Tony was still alive. Autopsies revealed high levels of Benadryl in all the victims. But there was a twist. Every wound had been inflicted after life had ended, not before. And none of the victims showed clear signs of suffocation. So what was Tony hiding? In subsequent interrogations, Tony spun a new tale. Megan had been responsible. He came home late, found the family already lifeless, and Megan confessed to ending their lives after receiving a vision. He vomited, cried, adjusted the arrangement of the remains, and refused to leave her side. He said he couldn't call for help because the phones were missing, They were later found on the front porch. He said the neighbors were all snowbirds and might not have been home. This was Florida in December, prime snowbird season. And yet, he had no problem going out for Starbucks, even as Tony changed his story again and again, from being the orchestrator to the heartbroken witness. Nothing ever quite lined up. The physical evidence contradicted him. The behavior contradicted him. His own words contradicted him. Still, he insisted. In jailhouse calls to his sister, he painted Megan as controlling, sickly, and manipulative. He described her as nearly immobile, yet she allegedly managed to end the lives of 3 children and a dog, injure herself multiple times, and survive long enough to calmly ask him to help her pass away. Tony even wrote his father a 27-page letter from jail, outlining his new version of the story. He spoke of pudding pies laced with Benadryl, spiritual awakenings, and Megan's deteriorating health. He claimed he wanted to take the blame out of loyalty. He claimed he honored her. He claimed she murdered the kids, then herself. He claimed he was just the husband trying to clean up the aftermath. And yet, despite these fantastical claims, one fact remained. Tony was the only living person in that house. When the trial finally came, Tony took the stand in his own defense. He repeated his narrative, saying Megan wrote the suicide letter. Megan prepared the drug-laced pie. Megan was responsible for the children's deaths. He even said he yelled out the window for help, but no one came. But his tone on the stand betrayed him, condescending, snide, angry when challenged. The jury saw through him. Tony Todt was found guilty on all counts, 4 counts of first-degree homicide and 1 count of animal cruelty. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But here's the question. Why would a man kill his entire family in such a manner, then lie about it repeatedly? Was it because of religious delusion? Financial collapse? Or, as some have speculated, could it be that Tony Todt, desperate to maintain control over a life that was spiraling into personal and financial challenges, chose to end it on his terms, removing his family from the picture? Or maybe, just maybe, he was aggrieved that Megan, tired of his persistent deceit and failures, no longer regarded him the same way, and he couldn't bear the thought of losing control. Perhaps the end times weren't about the world ending, but about Tony's own fragile ego breaking down. Maybe, just maybe, this man killed his entire family because his wife no longer respected him, because she knew he was a fraud in every way. What do you think? Was this a desperate act of delusion, or the calculated destruction of a man whose life was falling apart? Comment below your thoughts. If you liked the video, please press the like button and subscribe, and check out other videos on our channel. We've got a lot of other stories about cases that have yet to be fully resolved.